Hello, old chap. Hello, and welcome to the AEW Wrestling Headlines Review. That's weird, isn't it? I'll immediately muck that up. Anyway, my name is Matt Mayer, aka Imp, and we are here to review a competent wrestling show. I know, it's weird. I've got the wrong stream thing up. That's really irritating. Yes, oh my word, here we go. So many tabs. Anyway, we are live, and it's the first time I've gone solo for a little while. I think the last time I did this was for Survivor Series. And Royal Rumble's coming up, so get a bit of practice in. Get a bit of practice in with this. Generally, I really enjoyed this episode of AEW. Not before we get into anything specifically, I generally just enjoyed myself. So, compared to last week, where I was like, I'm feeling the pacing here, when I had James Boyd of One Nation Radio on the show last week, that was one of the things that really hit me. It's like, oh yeah, this is a weirdly paced show. I was ready for it to end like 3 segments before it did. This week, start to finish, absolutely loved it. Therefore, I can't really compliment it more in that aspect. Obviously, everybody has their own different kind of feeling with it, with stuff like this. Entertainment's subjective. I personally, start to finish, I was like, this is just a really well-paced show. Really enjoyed it. Anyway, before I get into stuff like that, obviously, we're live here on YouTube, but it will be available in podcast form later. Links in the description, or head over to wrestlingheadlines.net for all your latest wrestling news. Jon Moxley's returned. Oh yes, the main topic for the show, an incredible return, as I waffle on a little bit before I can actually get to what he said. Because in pure Jon Moxley fashion, the Wild Thing played, you can see he was a bit emotional, he's walking through the crowd, an awesome moment, Washington DC, where the show was this week, going crazy, and a return full of emotion, as Moxley very openly talked about facing and overcoming his inner demons. He doesn't run from his demons, he beats the crap out of them. He didn't say crap, he said the S word. I can't say the S word because we're still in the first 5 minutes of the video. You gotta wait. Just the main message of, he's in 2022, he's going on a ride. He's going to take the wrestling world by the balls, leaving in the true unique message only Moxley can deliver. But only he can say a line as badass as this and it come across as badass. It's just that thing of nowadays, all I drink is blood. It's like, only him. Only he could say something as audacious as that and it sound cool. Perfect. It's like, I absolutely loved everything about this. It was full of raw emotion, putting everything out there, and he just really felt it. There was a real edge to this promo. Also, the thing I got to address, unfortunately, the dickhead, the bellend, who was in the crowd, meaning that but Moxley came out, he came into the ring, it's nice and emotional, starts speaking, somebody immediately starts heckling. At this point, I'm just like, why? My first thought is, you're ruining this for everyone else, is my immediate thought, and I've seen this before, obviously. Like, my number one thing is, from my real life, is like, from comedy clubs and things, would be just a heckler in the crowd, thinks they're being funny. Most of the time they're drunk or high on something, so they're just not perceiving it. Sometimes they're just a bellend. You don't have to be, you don't have to be high to come across as a bellend if you're a bellend. I said that I was going to leave quoting exactly what Moxley said in reply till 3 to 5 minutes in the video. I've said bellend like 5 times already. Maybe that ship's already sailed. Damn my Britishness. Damn me. Anyway, so yeah, he starts heckling, and I was thinking, what are you doing? You're just completely ruining this. What is wrong with you? Then Moxley, in an immediate reply, just completely shuts the heckler down. Oh, I'm assuming got the guy chucked out as well. Just telling him, hey you, go fuck yourself. Take that piece of shit out of the arena. Off you pop. Obviously he didn't do a very British off you pop at the end, but still, got an absolutely amazing response. Just to completely shut it down. The crowd right back into what Moxley was saying. And, he had something important in there to say. And for somebody to jump in immediately by saying that, first off, why? Why would you pay a ticket to do that? To then immediately get tossed out the arena? It's a weird one. But what goes through those people's heads? But still, such an emotional return for Moxley. It didn't... I don't know what he felt after giving it, but I can say as a viewer, it didn't really knock the performance. And for anything I could tell, it was still full of that raw emotion. And again, that message of what he's been through just that past month, and just saying that he's back now, it was delivered so damn well. Just full of so much passion. You felt every word of it, and you can tell that it meant a lot to him as well. And you can tell that when they're delivering a promo like this. It's like, yeah, and Moxley's back and immediately just like, this is what we've been missing. This is what we've been missing. There's this raw passion that Moxley brings, the craziness that man has. And just immediately right back on the saddle. It's like, yes, Moxley's back. I have been missing Moxley, it turns out. I'm going to get the same feeling when Omega returns. It's just like, I have been missing Omega. I didn't realise it because I was still enjoying the shows, but when this star returns, that's why they're a star. Yes, amazing. So, yeah, but really heartfelt promo with so many great lines. But again, for me, the two that really stood out was telling a guy, but just the mood of returning, and immediately the first words out of his mouth are to tell a guy to go fuck himself, and then to come back. It's one of those stories where it's like, yeah, only Moxley. His first words live on TBS. It's just this. Wow, amazing. But anyway, the parting phrase of nowadays all I drink is blood, just screaming it into the microphone. It's like, yeah, you're a badass, Moxley. You're a badass. But that was just a great way to kick off the show as well. Just to have the crowd kind of erupt in this emotion of welcoming him back. It's the type of thing that we've gotten used to. Like in WWE, you build it up. A big star is returning, you build it up to keep people watching the show, you put that on last. They don't always do that, but that's what I align that with WWE. So they must have done it enough. But with this one, it kind of makes sense just to lift the mood up. AEW do that a lot. They'll kick off Dynamite with a big mood lifter before then going to the more story-based stuff. And this was that. Only main event with this if you're going into an absolutely major angle. Otherwise, what's the point? But still, great return, immediately realising what we're missing, and also gives absolutely no hints as to what he's going to do. For me, it's the perfect way to kind of bring back Moxley. It's like, it's Moxley. He's awesome. You get reminded of how awesome Jon Moxley is, but you don't give any hint as to what's actually coming up. Yeah, I like that. Maybe he's going to beat the crap out of Garcia. Who knows? It's all Eddie Kingston wants. Someone else to get in his way. It's all Eddie wants is to beat up Garcia. People keep getting in his way. And now his best friend returns, so maybe he'll beat him up. Anyway, after that, we kind of move fresh into the show. Normally, I'll pick a random thing throughout the show, make that the topic, and then go through the card in order. I've picked the first thing on the show, which means accidentally go through this thing in order. But again, to start with, for me, this was an absolutely solid episode of AEW Dynamite. Flowed really, really well. The main event was incredibly fun too. It's just that the way things were placed on the card to just carry that momentum was, for me, done really, really well this week. It was something I brought up last week, where they had like a similar segment after one. I was just kind of like, maybe don't that. This week, it was kind of, it was paced really, really well. I can't really... There's nothing to really critique there. I will say, in terms of like another thing I noticed on this show, the sheer amount of signs being brought to AEW shows now is such a great sight to see. For me, that's my absolute proof of an engaged audience. I'm not saying that it's a bigger audience or more financially lucrative audience, but this audience is engaged, and like. This was such a great episode of Dynamite to go with it that, for me, the time watching absolutely flew by. But just the sheer number of sites. There were, as an English person, I noticed that there were Arsenal fans in that crowd, like 2 or 3 rows back. They were on the hard camera. How many bloody signs did they bring? I think there were 2 people, and they had between them like 5 or 6 signs each that would just either play off each other or would... lots of signs about Tottenham, who are Arsenal's rivals, but about Harry Kane, about Arsenal to themselves. Yes, the Gooners are the Arsenal. So, it's like, that's just one example. When you look at the shot of like when the show starts, there's just like a whole wall, really, of just so many signs. It just reminds me so much of the Attitude Era. And I just assumed, like, obviously wrongly, that it was like a change of the times, that signs, yes, you get the odd person bringing a sign, or you got the modern day gimmick of saying this video game's better than that video game from the 90s. There's that current theme going on. But aside from that, I quite often, that happened with WWE. Like, aside from the odd sign, like that wall of signs that you saw in the Attitude Era, that disappeared. That slowly crept back into AEW. And I thought that was like a sign of the times. But no, turns out I'm absolutely wrong. Turns out when the audience got engaged with the product they were watching, they really felt like they wanted to bring signs. And over time, the number of people doing that at AEW shows has increased. And yeah, it's not in terms of like, has it been happening at WWE shows as well? No, it hasn't. That's the interesting thing for me. It's not like a post-COVID thing that's just come back from a wrestling time of old. Like, no, this is only happening at AEW. This isn't happening at WWE. So I find it interesting. For me, again, proof, and that's a nice little feedback of your audience is engaged when they're bringing signs, mostly on topic. But I picked up the 2 Arsenal fans. There's also the video game signs that don't really have anything to do with AEW, but it's a gimmick that has worked and kicked off and now gets screamed capped and put on Twitter every week. So if you're the person this week that was in Washington that brought the sign saying something was better than Final Fantasy VIII, and I can't remember what it was because I don't know my games from the 90s. I'm not even 30 yet. The 90s are not my decade. I don't really know. Anyway, I'm not going to go through the rest of the show in order, starting with. I think I talked about my review of the show. Yeah, positive, thumbs up, great episode of AEW, really strong, and nerdy stuff like pacing things. Yeah, top notch, really good stuff. Moved all the character work across, set up next week really well. To be fair, that's their like one of their best attributes. Is like for me the thing I really like right before the main event when they run through the cards for Rampage and Dynamite the next week, and it's go, oh, it's like we've got all of this stuff coming up just before they then give you the main event. So yeah. Like it. It keeps the hype wheel constantly spinning. MJF, uncharacteristically here to apologise to Wardlow for his actions last week. This was all kind of building up to the Shawn Spears versus CM Punk match later in the show. But I just really like, but the big man, he still put his hands on MJF, so he is going to have to dock his pay, even though it's his birthday. I'm just like, that's just brilliant. And just Wardlow's facials right afterwards, just pulling a right face at him after that. Just MJF goes back to speaking and Wardlow's just, don't know about that. Just, yeah, really, really good stuff. Continuing to build, as in just letting us know that what they weren't doing that thing where they build up a teaser break. They've seen this quite a few times. I think AEW might have even done this technique where you tease a team breaking up, but then when the moment comes, actually work out the differences. And normally this will happen with the heel team, and it'll all be like a swerve of, hey, we got you, we're not really falling out. This was just reminding you, this isn't that. This wasn't us building to a blow off, and then you kind of saw it, but you didn't really. They're actually staying together. Like, no, this is just a little reminder. Wardlow is going to deck him. He is going to turn on him. It's just, we're letting that play out. We've got MJF CM Punk first. Got to let things play out. And I was reminded that it was said on a previous episode that Wardlow's contract for AEW states that, or the contract with MJF, which is like the entire point of his character, stated that if he were to win any titles, they would be MJF's titles. They wouldn't be Wardlow's. He'd be winning them on behalf of MJF, and MJF would be champion, not Wardlow. That's not really come up yet. I don't know if it's not really been used aside from like a nice little gag to kind of get him initially, but like no, it's there. And AEW doesn't forget this stuff when they say it's for a reason or they've got a plan for something. They don't just drop it. So my other thought is Wardlow, like the boiling point where Wardlow finally has enough. Maybe if he wins the title and MJF just destroys him. It's just like, oh, yes, I love it. I love it so much. There's so many different ways you can go. And to be fair, we've got to get through the whole CM Punk arc first. We're nowhere near done. So, after this, kicking off the action with a tad of fun as I punch my microphone like a really smart person. Adam Cole and Britt Baker versus Orange Cassidy and Chris Statlander. I guess a taste of intergender wrestling on the tags, because it was a mixed tag wrestle. The men wrestled the men, the women wrestled the women. I think I talked about this with James Boyd last week when this match was signed off, and it was just my immediate thought of, as soon as I saw intergender wrestling done well on the indie scene in Lucha Underground, I was just like, yeah, it's fine, it's perfectly fine. Like, and most of the commenters against it haven't. Again, for me, it's a very archaic way of thinking. It's just like, oh, you can't have the women and the men going at each other. Like, in what other medium is this not allowed? In terms of like entertainment, as in scripted entertainment, a very small niche. It's like, yeah, for me, watching Lucha Underground proved you can easily do this. And in this match, they showed you, like, Chris Statler could beat the crap out of Adam Cole, and Britt Baker Cassidy vice versa. I will say, for me, Orange Cassidy is really the perfect guy for like an audience test for intergender wrestling, as I'm not really sure you can call what he does offense. So he's kind of like, when he's doing the fake kicks, it's like, yeah, this is fine. It's just doing the comedy stuff first, kind of just a little, kind of like, just a tease, just a test, just to see how the audience will react to it. For me personally, I'll be all for AEW, like, with intergender wrestling. For me, TNA proved on like a slightly larger audience than the indie scene that it can work. It'll be absolutely fine. But I'm not the one that needs convincing. Unfortunately, they do have the stations to adhere to with TBS, TNT, Turner Broadcast, with the investors and the advertising and everything. I fully understand that me as a nerdy wrestling fan going, no, it's absolutely fine. That doesn't matter. We tried to talk to people who have never and will never have watched the thing, and whatever beliefs they have about this, I've got absolutely nothing to actually do with, is it in this very specific circumstance fine? It's like, no. It never comes into it. It never gets past the immediate question of course you can't. You never get to the second question. So I understand. Maybe with time. I don't have any hope that AW will be a beacon of intergender wrestling in like a year. Like, no. I just don't hold that at all. But hey, they still deliver great wrestling. It's just a little note. I enjoy intergender wrestling. I'm one of those people that's perfectly fine with it. So when I see a mixed tag, it's kind of like, oh, but Chris Statler could blatantly beat the crap out of Adam Cole. It's not even in question. Anyway, at the match itself, I will say a great false finish towards the end. Double destroyers. Baker flipping Steplander over on the ramp. Cole the Panama Sunrise to Cassidy in the ring. Our baddies then setting up a table, but it immediately went against them as a missed orange punch splashed Baker down through it. Cole just iron the prize regardless. Like, your woman's cut through a table. A swift punch to the dick and nailed Cassidy with the boom for the win. Count to 100, referee. I think the count generally got to like 7 or 8 because the ref took a little while to get there. That was the end of the match. Then he goes to check on Britt Baker. And that's kind of the anger that motivates him later in the show. Like, just angered that he promises to end it all. He's had enough of Orange Cassidy. Next week at Beach Break, it's a special, so you're going to have some lovely trees on the stage. No rules, no DQ, lights out. A very protected match in AEW. Next week at Beach Break. A commentary also immediately reminding us that the last lights out match in AEW was Britt Baker versus Thunder Rosa. Getting close to a year ago now. I think it was like February or March. Oh God, with lockdown and COVID and everything, I cannot remember time. Time is not the same. Like, when I was going through, I was contributing to like match of the year lists towards the end of the year for the different people and websites, whatever, and just trying to remember when I first did it. Like, trying to remember what was this year. It's like, oh God, that was this. Oh my word, there's so much. That sudden remember. I was like, oh yeah, Blood and Guts was this year. Oh my word. It's been a very, very long 2021. Anyway, yeah, lights out. They do this very, very rarely, and the fact that this kind of can easily play off the Baker one from last year, and it's going to be a very, very different style, because what is Orange Cassidy like? The character of Orange Cassidy, what is he like in what is been typically quite violent lights out matches? We don't see them very often. And we've got a character that you would assume would not align with this match style. Yeah, call me intrigued. Is it just going to be a more comedic version? I mean, if you're going to go full PWG with this, as AEW have done every now and then, go with what was popular on the indies. Adam Cole, full hardcore. Therefore, Orange Cassidy gets a bag and people think that it's thumbtacks, but it's Lego. Something like that. That's a gag that Cassidy can do. Type of thing. Or he takes it seriously. Which I doubt. It's Orange Cassidy. There's going to be a little bit of silliness in there before he then, gets a bit more serious because he actually wants to win. Anyway, after this, Jericho, Santana and Ortiz were backstage getting interviewed by Marvez. Jericho with his words for Eddie, but he's interrupted by his stablemates where Eddie Kingston's words from last week very blatantly echoing in their head as, like, Santana and Ortiz, like, they've got some true words for him as they just question, like, why are they always fighting his battles? When is he going to fight for theirs? Just that, no, what Eddie said last week, it's true. they've not really been challengers for those tag titles. They've always been backing up Chris Jericho in Jericho's fights. So when is Jericho going to fight for them? And Jericho at the end, after they walk off, and he's like, don't think I do hear you. Or it was more along the lines of, yeah, I'm not online with that. Like, do we see the split of the Inner Circle? Or temporary disbandment? Maybe they're not together per se for a little while, as they've all got their different agendas, rather than a full-on split. We'll see. CM Punk versus Shawn Spears. Ooh, I absolutely love this. This was, for me, an amazing example of the production around getting to the match. Really, the whole thing is the story of the match. From the really high quality video package that played before, from Shawn Spears getting his promo on Rampage, just elevating himself ahead of then going to CM Punk, and Shawn Spears kind of gloating, the whole presentation telling you, right, settle in. You've seen what's happened before with these matches of CM Punk. These matches against the Pinnacle people, they're not super quick. Like, MJF comes out, there's all the taunting. You know what to wait for. Both entrances given time to breathe. Obviously, I was watching on Fight, so I don't know. Sometimes I don't know what entrances aren't included. Like, I had a really good time with Cody's entrance to find out most of it wasn't on the show because they got to different things. But yeah, still, given the time to breathe, MJF gloating, taking his time to get all comfy at commentary, then BAM! Time to go to sleep. 1, 2, 3. CM Punk wins immediately. And it's that, yes, so good. Everything about the presentation was right. Okay, get settled in. Like MJF, just taking his time just to get all comfy in his little chair. His doesn't creak like mine. All nice and comfy. And then just immediately loses. As are explosive in the best way. Me using the word swerve positively. So damn good. MJF then afterwards couldn't even snake his way into a surprise attack. CM Punk just on it on this night. And it goes against like everything MJF was saying to CM Punk. Where half of his entire point was, you can't go like you used to. You're a much slower, older guy now. You cannot best me. And then he defeats Shawn Spears in seconds. Just proving him completely wrong. Just every kind of insult MJF lays before him, like a hurdle jump over, CM Punk is slowly jumping over them. Good stuff. Yeah, I cannot praise this enough. So damn good. And builds to MJF CM Punk really well. They are in Chicago in a very short matter of time. I wanted to say like beginning of February, so maybe that's like 2 weeks away. I really would not be against just doing MJF CM Punk in Chicago, unless you got something else planned. Hey, no harm, no foul. Compared to the next segment, not as high in the next segment, but it's also a nothing filler feud. So AEW sometimes they'll fill out with this, and it's like, it's fine. The longer thing they're doing in terms of giving the champions a win and making them look strong is like more important longer term than this sort of thing. It's my brain adjustment. After so many years watching WWE, I'm kind of conditioned to always think short term, and if what is in front of me right now isn't going to a thing in a couple of weeks or isn't going to immediately be followed up by something, my brain doesn't work that way. This is building further down the line. Billy Gunn telling Christian Cage that his boys are in the top 5 and should be next for a tag title shot. Christian is like, fine, I guess, but I'm not gonna like do it willingly, really. But it's all a ruse for a parking lot beatdown. I was like, hey, no harm in a filler win for the champions, and that's what this is: elevating the champions rather than just immediately crowning the next contenders. No. You make the champions feel like a big deal, then you tell me who they're going to be defending against. I like that. I like that cycle AEW do. They actually build up the champions rather than building up the contenders or a feud around it, and the champion loses all the time, so don't feel very strong. Yeah, it's much better. Yeah, obviously they're not very believable contenders because there's no way in hell they are going to win. That said, it'll do that. It'll do the point of building up Jurassic Express. Thumbs up. TNT champion Cody Rhodes. Actually, before I do that, I'm gonna have a drink. We are still in a pandemic. Let's not overdo it. TNT champion Cody Rhodes. Suck it, US fans. For me, watching on Fight, I got to watch no promo for the Go Big Show. I got to watch a great shot of Cody posing on the turnbuckle as a fan holds up a "I'm in the Rumble" sign in the background. It's just like, oh, it's so perfect. It's Cody, because it had Cody on the left, and then just in the background, "I'm in the Rumble." So I really liked it, just teasing, teasing really, really well. Obviously, massive coincidence, the fan happened to lift that up. But still, I really, really like the shot. When the shot, the person, and the sign, they just tell a story. I love those shots. New Japan used to be very good at that, just lining up a shot perfectly to tell its individual little things. Like, oh, isn't that nice? A tiny little golden nugget. Anyway, Cody got a big old ladder out from under the ring after walking about ringside for a tad, which was entertaining enough on Fight. Fans, throughout his, I guess, meandering, slight chaotic promo, so many things referenced here. So, in terms of, for me, I perfectly like this Cody promo. I read it as making it all about himself on purpose, and because it's juxtaposed by Sammy Guevara not saying a single word, just with his words written down, and that's his promo. He doesn't say anything. Compared to Cody, he rambles on for ages and hardly mentions Sammy Guevara. Talks about 15 other points before finally getting to the point about challenging for a ladder match to settle who is the true TNT champion. We'll say, a running theme throughout this show, because of course we've got the heckle at the start, we've got heckles here. Some people, if you're going to heckle, make it less than a sentence. Make it like a condensed sentence. Don't give me 2 or 3 sentences. You just keep on going. Hey, Cody, what am I going to do this and do that? What? No, I'm not. I can't. You're just noise when you've progressed past 4 or 5 words. When you go past 4 words, I'll say, you're just noise now, and I'm trying to concentrate on what the guy's saying in the ring. So if you're gonna heckle, make it short. Just don't keep going on. Don't give me a full 2-part sentence with a comma and then obviously, and because my word and my base is shut down, what that's called. But yeah, sorry, grammar people, but still, yeah. Don't give me a paragraph heckle. That's insane. So many, like 2 or 3 people trying to pipe up at once. Why are you speaking for so long? Your heckle doesn't need to be this long. God damn it. The British really need to help these American girls with their chants. If you're going to do a long heckle, turn it into a song. That's what people will listen if it's a song. Especially if you make it rhyme and make it silly, fit it, do it a song that everybody knows. Not just waffling on and on. Anyway, there was also a chance for Royal Rumble at him. No, he's not. But it's playing off the news. To be fair, Cody himself, in the topic of his promo, was covering like all of the news points. Just like everything got referenced. Like all of the jabs at all of the news items of the day. Like contracts, silly name changes, firing himself up before getting to the point and challenging Sammy Guevara. Like everything got referenced. Shots at NXT. You call it, it was there. But also, in terms of like, is he the weekly thing of is he a heel or is he a face? He kind of danced that line a little bit. He was doing the fired up promo of like the best of Cody in AEW, whilst also saying that he did everything that CM Punk laid out to do in the pipe bomb, like the roadmap that he set with the pipe bomb. No, I'm me, Cody. I actually did those things, and the crowd kind of cheer a little bit, but also it's like, but no, you are also, whilst bigging up CM Punk as like the return of the decade, is what the words that Cody used, is also kind of took little shots at him. It was like, no, but I'm the one that did those things. It's like, oh, is CM Punk's feud for after MJF already being set? When MJF probably moves on to Wardlow or something, is CM Punk Cody being set up there? Maybe. Or is Cody doing the Triple H tactic of set up feuds with about 5 different people? One of them might pan out. But still, yeah, so many different references. Taking shots at the Red Dragon for being in NXT. As like, congratulations, you graduated from arm drag school, or arm hold, whatever he said. Good. Just, but I don't want the Young Bucks to yet again beat developmental. It's like, yeah. So many shots at NXT. Me personally, I like the jabs because They are back and forth. Both companies do them, and I personally like it. For me, the most boring is the one WWE did this week. They're the only ones I don't like, just because that's just PR jab. I don't find PR jabs like that very interesting. When it's wrestlers themselves, or it's integrated into the product in some way, or it's just on Twitter like a silly little back and forth, I'm fine with that. When it's PR to an outlet where it's to a news outlet, that's slightly different, because that's just more. Like, you're not saying that for me, you're saying that for investors to try and the kind of, like, we don't think that advertisers should be advertising on this. That's very different. You're trying to do something there compared to having a jab. It's still a jab, but it's not in a comedic way. Like, you're not doing this for a bit of a laugh, a bit of fun. No. And we got the gory mutilation stuff later in the show. Take On His response was amazing. Just the photo of her with the middle finger covered in blood after the match. Great stuff. Kings of Black. Here we go. Kings of the Black Throne versus Varsity Blondes. I was so looking forward to this debut. I'm somebody who's very aware of them from PWG as a team unit. Excalibur just giving a massive rundown of what they've accomplished. Because there were a few kind of meetings of... that's just something of Brody King. One major thing I forgot to point out was Cody put over so many different people within AEW. It was really weird. Like, one of the points he was making about, he did the gag about we're not in the habit of changing names here to like Gunner McGunner something like that. Obviously playing off of the Gunter news, which it was very, very silly. Just, what is it? I mean, no, it's a massive tangent. It's a massive tangent. I can get into that with the state of WWE, the bad state of stuff. I'm doing that show with Vance from Chairshot Radio. I'm doing that show at some point. I'll just leave it for that. But anyway, yeah. So he plays off of that, and this goes into. But if you are to call yourself Brody in AEW, that takes some balls. And that leads us to Brody King now. First, destroying Varsity Blondes along with his other tattooed friend. A strong initial dominant win over the College Blondes, quickly separating their opponents and nailing what they're calling the Dante's Inferno, which I guess is a pop-up into a power slam. Looks awesome. Like, big, tough, tattooed lads. After the match, Malachi asking for the House of Black to rise, which I really, really like. Just, I wonder what's going to be like afterwards, if he does that more often. If it's not just leading into this, where Pac interrupts via VTR. Pac VTR play. Setting up our match for Malachi versus Pac. Yeah. How can I not be excited for this? Yeah. Two guys who are awesome. The awesome promo work and when he gets to the actual match itself. Yeah, expect a lot of kicks. It's going to be a white hot match. Cannot wait for it. Hangman versus Archer. There's so much. I feel like there's so many like little things that played out throughout these shows. I feel like I want to talk more about it, but I've got so many little things to address. Hangman Archer, they got a promo, and how great is it to hear Jake Roberts' awesome raspy voice again? And we didn't immediately go into the next match. This is what I'm talking about. Like, should I talk more about Kings of Black Throne? You know what? I'm enjoying them. Great, solid debut. Got the point across. Set up the feud with Pac. Great. On to the next thing. Hangman Archer, awesome. Jake Roberts, really love hearing his voice. After that, it's Roppongi Vice. It's like, we're setting up Rampage here. How lovely. Roppongi Vice, I like this little touch. Recording their own promo, nicking Brandon, who was set up to record a Young Bucks promo, but they hadn't arrived yet. And they were just like, we'll just use you, Brandon. And Rocky kind of dissing Brandon just like the Bucks do. And Trent constantly just getting him like, no. Like, he gets some point, he does nothing else. He's like, Brandon, you're doing a really good job. You're doing really well, Brandon. It's just behind the camera. Thanks, I guess. Roppongi Vice reuniting for one more night to face the Young Bucks on Rampage. I'll go through the Rampage matches like much later. Frankie Kazarian versus Lance Archer. Now we can get to it. Everybody dies. More specifically, on this night, Frankie Kazarian dies. Lance, you're scaring kids, bruh. Telling a little kid that the beating he was giving Kazarian was her fault is amazing. I love it. Don't know how much of this was on the main broadcast. I want to think none of it. He just went at a little kid who was at ringside and just shouted at her. Look at this. Pay attention, kid. Actions rightfully met with piece of shit chants. Really Great stuff. Archer, pretty damn dominant, as he should be, as they're building up their assuming number one contender for Hangman. Winning with the blackout before Hype Man Lambert bigs him up for the title match. Archer choosing violence over words. But our AEW champion Hangman came out for the save to a huge ovation. No buckshot lariat though. He got the punches in. He was able to fight off Archer from doing the damage. But no buckshot lariat. The champion's message was sent to the big scary man. But there was no final blow. We gotta wait for the title match for that. You gotta wait. And it's not happening at Beach Breaks. So that match is being held off for something later down the line. We'll find out what. I mean, it's not going to be Revolution. Because it screams to me that they're going to get through Cole versus Cassidy next week. Then you do Archer versus Hangman. Then you build to Cole versus Hangman at Revolution. They've kept them apart. They've teased it on BTE to get us, like people getting the extended version of these stories. Like they're kind of building it up there. But there's been very little hint on television. So you can build to that. Dante Martin has friends. Good for him. In Lee Moriarty and Matt Sydal. But Ricky Starks and Hobbs let him know that won't be enough when Team Taz builds assassins. Great line. Really well delivered as well by Hobbs. Yeah. But a couple of like assassin dickheads. I love it. Teleporting Tony. Then backstage with Chris Statlander and Red Velvet when Layla Hirsch immediately interrupts her in anger at losing on Rampage. First off, a women's interview interrupted. Or just an interview in AEW, somebody walks in and interrupts it. Yep, par for the course. But I do like the idea of Hirsch addressing the fact that, no, like, you lost me money by kind of lacking in that match. So, like, you owe me here. But it turned into a Layla attack. Heel turn for me for Layla is great, even if it is becoming a tad of a trope in AEW to interrupt a backstage interview into an attack. At least it wasn't like a surprise attack from the front. Hello, Swerve in NXT, surprise attack from the front in a forklift. Amazing. It makes so little sense that I absolutely love it. It's one of my favourite things. Serena Deeb versus Sky Blue. Deeb murders a promising young lion Suzuki style, and I absolutely adore it. Having the match won and then deciding to smash the poor lass's knee into the mat over and over and over before wrenching back on it for a submission win. Really solid stuff. Building up Serena Deeb for whatever's down the line, whatever they're building up for. I wouldn't mind a little serious people faction. For me, that's the one thing really missing from the women's division that really sets it apart from the men's. It's just that there aren't any factions. And like Britt Baker's now kind of dabbling with the Elite, but that's not her faction. She's got her two people, and now that she's with these guys, she does a little side tangent. It's fine. But yeah, I wouldn't mind some factions, and for me, Deeb being the leader of a faction, I wouldn't be against it. Just her and whoever murdering folk. I'll be absolutely up for it, and teaching her young ones how to also murder like that. We're all for it. Men of the Year. This week it's Ethan Page's turn to be front and centre, stepping up to face Moxley on Rampage, and this is the time where it's best to go through all of the stuff. So on Rampage, we got Page versus Moxley, Young Bucks versus Roppongi Vice, hyped with a load of New Japan Pro Wrestling footage and everything. Like that was a genuine surprise to see. So I thought, they're showing like a clip from a match just to let you know. Like, no, they're giving you the entire story here. It's the entire backstory of these two facing each other in New Japan with all of the footage. It's like, oh, that's nice. What a lovely little surprise. Hook, an amazing ovation by just saying, by the way, Hook's going to wrestle, and the crowd goes crazy, versus Serpentico. And TBS Championship on the line for the first time in a defence as Jade Cargill faces Anna Jay. Beach Break, I think I skipped over the promo earlier, but we had John Silver just letting Jade Cargill know that Anna Jay's got them guns. And Anna Jay just reminding Jade Cargill, who's a very cocky champion, is very, very overconfident, and just Anna Jay just like, do remember that I very, very recently, not that long ago, I wrapped my arm in barbed wire to get a submission win. So I've got a dark side, and she is in the Dark Order. There, so obviously got a dark side. Obviously. Beach Break next week on Dynamite. TNT Championship ladder match, Cody versus Guevara. Lights Out Cole versus Cassidy. Jericho, Santana and Ortiz versus Garcia in 2.0. And finally Red Velvet versus Layla Hirsch. Loaded show. Yeah, just keeping that hype rolling. I just love the way that they deliver these. Just the way that they lay it out, and it's right it's when you're ready for the main event, and then it's just let's just get some pulsing music, get you amped. Let's go. There's this happening, and then this is happening after that, and then after this, and then after we've done that, then we're going on to this. Yeah, it really does help keep that hype wheel rolling when you're announcing like 4 things for each upcoming show. Yeah, can't praise that idea enough. Again. I remember when when they really started doing this and it really started to hit a stride in terms of being like a format of their show, and then WWE tried it with Raw. However, the way they book doesn't fit it. Like, saw it as a trope that the fans were positively reacting to. So, it makes sense for us to kind of use that. For me, that's why competition is good. Like, you can learn from each other. Like, both sides do good things that are worth borrowing, and then you learn and improve off of each other. And for me, AEW did this thing, it works. WWE had a look at it and went, we should probably do that. Then very quickly realised that's not how they write. So they don't do it now. I think it even lasted for like a month or maybe more than that, where they would hype up matches, but like so many would be cancelled before he gets to it. So it's like, well, what's the point? What's the point in any of this? Anyway, main event. The final thing on the show that I generally loved as well. Darby Allin and Sting versus the Acclaimed. The Acclaimed, obviously, getting the normal ire with their lines. This week with the gory mutilation. They got that reference. Saying going to beat up Sting make him look worse than he did at Starrcade 97. Which is both just things saying we're going to beat you up, but also this match was bad, wasn't it? You looked awful. So yeah, from 1997. It's a jab of ages. Anyway, the match itself. Also, I want to give a massive praise to from Rampage for the music video that the Acclaimed did on Darby Allin and Sting. Pure silly fun. I like stuff like this being on AEW, and the fact that they then used an extra thing that they filmed as their like pre-main event intro to kind of play off what Darby Allin does in terms of playing the video before a big match. The Acclaimed did the same thing here, taking the piss. But before the match, the Acclaimed took Darby out before the bell, a chair round the head and whipped into the ring post. Sting then agreed to take the lads on 2-on-1, holding his own for most of the main event. But eventually the numbers game won over when it was time to explode into our final part of the show, just in time for Darby to return and dive off of the ramp. Sting then also upping the ante with a splash off of the stage, a main event splash off the stage, through the timekeeper's table. Coffin drop from Allin for the win. Utter chaos. 60-year-old man diving off the stage like it's nothing. I wouldn't do that now, and I'm still in my 20s. So, coffin drop, Allin wins. And yeah, a really hot momentum of a main event. They used that to obviously plug what's coming up next as well. For me, a really strong episode of Dynamite. Flowed really well. Again, from start to finish. There was no filler on this. Everything served its purpose, which is normally the case with AEW. I felt like last week it was more a card kind of structure problem, where there was just way too many things that felt a little bit similar. And yeah, it got a bit of a tired crowd, and then by the time you got to a certain point, you kind of like, oh, I don't really want these matches now. This show flowed so much better that I never felt that. So from one thing to the next, absolutely flew by. Really, really, and I watched it on Fight, so my version was longer. And for me, it still absolutely flew by. Really strong stuff. It was great to see after last week, where I wasn't, like me and James Boyd from Monitor Radio, kind of tore into Dynamite last week. We really weren't that high on it, but then this week, this episode for me, which is a really solid episode. Was it the best episode of Dynamite ever? No. Because for me, the bar is so high. For me, it was just a solid episode of Dynamite. I don't have any faults with it. I really enjoyed it. But it's not the best episode of Dynamite ever, because those episodes normally feature like an incredible match of the... Because Dynamite serves up match of the year stuff throughout the year. And absolutely incredible in terms of moments or debuts or whatever. This had the awesome kind of return of Jon Moxley, just the amazing emotion coming out of it. But obviously it's not like as big as other things. It's just an awesome emotional moment that everybody shared. It's like, oh, this was great. It was awesome. So yeah, that's why it's a really solid episode of Dynamite. So that's why I don't like numbers. Because as I guess in my head, I'm like, I don't know, is it a 4? Is that what have my words described a 4? I don't know. Because I wouldn't say it's a 5, but that's because my bar for 5 is so high that a solid episode of AEW, like, yeah, really enjoyed it. Really easy to watch. Which is nice to say. Nice to say. Anyway, that brings me to the end of the review. What did you make of AEW Dynamite this week and all of this stuff? Awesome to see Jon Moxley back. Great to see him in such incredible shape. And that was the final thing as well. Just seeing the physical difference and like how much healthier he looks now. And it just like, as a fan, just go like, oh yeah, I've watched him for so long that it didn't even click with me. He didn't even notice that he got it. And that is like a thing that quite sometimes people around you, your friends won't notice something off unless you say something, which is kind of like part of his message. Yeah, it's great. Yeah, great to see Moxley back. Anyway, I will be back on, I think, Tuesday for the bad and the ugly state of AEW and WWE. Myself and Vance Morris from Cheshire Radio last Tuesday we were meant to do the state of and do it in one show, but it took us so long to just list like all the positive from both AEW and WWE before going to the bad that the show was like 2.5 hours. So it's just like, we're gonna have to segment off the bad. So I think on Tuesday I'm set to do the state of the bad and the ugly state of AEW and WWE next on Tuesday. And then I'll be back with AEW Dynamite review next Thursday. Don't know who I'm joined by, I need to check in on that. Before the Royal Rumble. I think is that next week? I'm just going to use my computer just to check. It is, yes, next Saturday. So next Saturday I'll be live covering the Royal Rumble as soon as it is finished with Wrestling Headlines Aftershock. And I love the Rumble. It's one of my favourite pay-per-views. I enjoy it every single year. It's arguably my favourite WWE pay-per-view. I love the pomp and circumstance around WrestleMania. I just kind of get sucked into WWE around that time. What helps is they have a trajectory to a point, and normally the storytelling is a lot more focused in this specific time bit. It's not always like, it's not necessarily like the best episodes of wrestling ever, but you know, the stories are all focused. There's something to it. Then WrestleMania itself, the pomp and circumstance of it, yeah, it's just the showcase of everything. I love it. But Royal Rumble, that is my pay-per-view for WWE. My favourite one by far. Is that even after this, I'm planning to put on a Royal Rumble just to kind of get tired with that. How much I love them. So I'll be covering that next Saturday live immediately afterwards. Yes, for me that'll be like 4 or 5 in the morning. So I'll be doing that. And with that, I say thank you for watching, liking, engaging in any form, any manner. Always appreciate it. Never take it for granted. And with that, I bid you adieu and I say adios.